Hello, everybody. All right, so welcome to the Mikestand. Hopefully, everybody's having a good start to their week this week. Of course, we're got happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day as well. Um, so as usual, we're going to wait a few minutes, give people a chance to come in. Also, if you haven't already, if you can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and we will go ahead and I'll go ahead and try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. Oh, let's see now. Gone back and forth between 1 and 3. um, all right. So that said, we're okay. So we're back up to 3 now. All right. So okay, we do have a comment here. Let's see. Hail, Xenu and Xena, our only true saviors. Peace be upon them. All right. Hey there, JR. All right. Well, we do have some people in here now, it looks like. So I guess I'll just go ahead and get started and talk about what's on tap for tonight. So I've got a couple of articles from Bleeding Fool we're going to go over. One's kind of a manga related article, is the mangaka Yoichi Takahashi, who is the creator of the Captain Tsubasa manga, one of the longest running sports mangas in Japan's history, dating all the way back to 1981. That manga is coming to an end, it would appear, according to the article. Also, we're going to okay, so Jason Aaron says he wishes to make a statement with Superman. So I guess he's being brought on to work on the Superman comic. Plus, of course, we'll have the wrestling wrap up and this day in each history. So, with all that being said, why don't we go ahead and get started then, since we do have some people in here. So always feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the question to the best of my ability. So let's go ahead and get going here. Where are we at? Right there. Alrighty then. Let's see now. All right. So here we go. Getting right into it since we had some people in it. All right. So Captain Tsubasa creator announces manga series drawing to a close. Article by Avi Green, published January 12th, 2024, which of course was this past Friday. So let's go ahead and take a look at this then. Japan Today announced the long running Captain Tsubasa sports manga is going to be ending as its creator is retiring. Japan Today, as I recall, is a Japanese newspaper, I guess, or magazine. Um, let's see. Who is the who is the Jason who appears on Thinking Critical? I don't know because I don't watch Thinking Critical, so I don't know who you'd be referring to there, uh, Jr. So no, Jason Aaron here, I think, is a comic book artist, I believe, who works for DC and all that. So all right. So with that, let's go ahead and get into this. This is from the Japan Today article here. The Japanese creator of Captain Tsubasa said on Friday that he was blowing the final whistle on the beloved cartoon series after a run of 43 years. So I guess All right, so I guess they're talking okay manga series, but it's also been over in Japan an anime and all that. So um, Yoichi Takahashi began writing the comic strip about 11-year old soccer prodigy Tsubasa Ozoro in 1981. So 43 years ago, basically. Okay. And it grew into a global smash hit that inspired future superstars such as Lionel Messi and Andres Iniesta. So now what you have to understand, Captain Tsubasa is about soccer project. Now we call here in the States, we call it soccer. Everywhere else in the world it's called football. And even though it's not as popular here in America, in the United States, it's popular in other parts of the world. Popular in Europe, it's popular down in South America. So, just, so that's why it was such a known as Holly E. Benji in Italy and Super Campeones in Spanish. So in Spanish speaking Latin America, so Spanish super champions, basically. It spawned animated films, video games, and even statues in Takahashi's hometown in eastern Tokyo. The 63-year-old, so that would have meant that if he's been doing this for 43 years, he was 20 when he started drawing this manga. Announced in the latest edition of Captain Tsubasa magazine that the series will end in April. So only 3 more months here, citing his worsening health and changing conditions in the manga industry. Okay, so quote, it was not an easy decision, and it might make those who enjoy reading Captain Tsubasa disappointed and sad, but I hope you understand my decision, unquote. He wrote in a letter to his reader. So I think basically what it is that he's getting to that point where, he's realizing he can't produce a manga at the rate that he once could. And maybe he's just finally decided, you know what they say, right? All good things must come to an end. And that might just be the case here. Just one of those things where he just felt it was time to wind down. So anyways, as we continue on here with the article. And of course, as always, guys, feel free to comment and or ask questions. Anything here grabs your attention, I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. And if you haven't already, if you can like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. That'd be appreciated as well. Takahashi hopes the character will live on in some form and intends to draft ideas that can be used for future adaptations. So even though he's not going to be able to draw the manga anymore, he's going to probably make some, put some ideas out there for those, maybe for those who come after him to continue the series. So, anyways, a shame it has to end in manga format, but it will probably continue in animation as it has since 1983 in several TV miniseries and OVAs, along with a few movie-length entries. I got a feeling Tsubasa is the kind of creation some Western audiences today wouldn't have what it takes to appreciate. Because it's about drama and suspense of playing soccer rather than action adventure, and because it builds on Japanese culture, which is too bad. Obviously, inspiring sports manga tales like these are just what the industry really needs now. Now, mind you, I get Avi's point there, but as I mentioned when I started reading this article, of course, is about a soccer and there's a sports manga with soccer as its focus, and or internationally called football. but we all right. So, anyways, it is about it is a sports manga about like internationally what is called football, but what many what here we call in the states soccer, and it's not as, let's say, highly popular as, let's say, other sports are here in the states, like American, what internationally is called American football. We just simply call football. But anyways, well, that's all for that. Now let's get to the other article here. That one kind of went a little quickly. So let's see now. Yeah, 11:18. So that one went quicker than I thought it would. All right, so let's see now. So the second article, we might have a little bit more to say. So Jason Aaron says he wants to make a statement with Superman. Article by Avi Green, published January 13th, 2024. Let me just try one more thing here, and then we will get back to this. All right. So, anyways, getting into this now. So, Jason Aaron says he wants to make a statement with Superman. Article by Avi Green, published January 13th, 2024. So, I same Bizarro, samest Bizarro ever. Okay. Okay. So, Newsarama interviewed one of the wokest writers of the past decade. So okay, so we know that the statement he wants to make is probably going to be a woke one. One of the wokest writers of the past decade, Jason Aaron, and as you probably guessed, whatever he has in store for DC could easily be similar to what he did at Marvel, as the following from the beginning states. Now, this is from the Newsrama interview here, this next statement here. With the intent of making a statement about Superman on the same level as the statement he made about Thor in his long career at Marvel Comics, Aaron is diving in hard right off the bat in January 9th Action Comics number 10. Oh boy. So I wonder what that means. If what we've been hearing about, if that means that he's basically going to somehow demasculinize Superman here, those books are not. DC just keeps shooting itself in the foot, doesn't it? When it comes to that. Let's see. So back to Avi's article here. As anybody familiar with Aaron's Thor run can guess, that can mean he'll write up metaphors for liberal feminist nonsense, and even making the Man of Steel look less heroic as a man, and even making Lois Lane less sexy, though that's possibly already occurred under other writers of the past decade. Yeah, I would, even in some of the more recent cartoons, I'd have to almost argue that because, her, the way they drew and portrayed her in My Adventures of Superman was not all that great. So, did not look all that great. So, though that's, oh, okay. Anyways, and no change he'd do any better. No change he'd do any better with Supergirl if he gets his mitts on the Maid of Might. I hesitate to think what he'll do with her. Here's more, and what the interviewer says is just as problematic. So here's again from the new. Now going back to referencing the Newsarama article here. See if you guys have said anything about what we've said thus far. Nope, nope, nothing new there. So, all right, as we continue on with the article here. So, according to Jason here, I'm a huge Bizarro fan. So, I love that you chose him. Oh, okay. No, I guess this is the interviewer from Newsarama. I'm a huge Bizarro fan. So, I love that you chose him as the antagonist for this story. I don't want to get too spoilery, but Bizarro allows you to capitalize on his nature as Superman's total opposite in a new way that hinges on how they both interact with the concept of magic. How did you dial in on that as the key to Superman and Bizarro's relationship for the story? And I'm guessing this is Jason's response to that question. It was really just about exploring, what is the nature of Bizarro. Like, there have been different versions of Bizarro over the years. The one I'm using here is the one who comes from Bizarro World, the planet of other Bizarros like him. So all we know about him is just that he's meant to be Superman's doppelganger. This warped funhouse mirrored image of Superman, who's got the same powers, somehow who in a knuckle-on-knuckle fight and hold his own against Superman, is that powerful. So instead of having the reverse of everything Superman has, like where Superman has heat vision and super breath, he has fire breath and ice vision, I guess. But I think in this case he has the same powers as Superman, not the. Um, and then I guess the let's see. But what else does it really mean to be Superman's opposite? And yeah, the relationship to magic became a big part of that and kind of opened the door for Bizarro to strike at Superman in a way that takes this from just being a fight of two guys punching each other to something that's much darker and more twisted and more difficult for Superman to deal with. So, and then Avi kind of interjects here. Now, this sounds fishy in the sense that Aaron could be elevating a villain to a higher emphasis than needs be. And then obviously saying here, as I've noted before, spotlights on villainy, including the dangers of glamorizing violent criminals, has become a serious problem in this day and age. Yeah, I think it's that kind of thing that's led to things like the BLM riots. um, so, what's in discussion here vaguely reminds me of J. Michael Straczynski's claims he wanted to get inside Spider-Man's head, in parentheses, and Captain America's too, in parentheses, and we've seen how far that got. Now Aaron wants to get inside the head of a villain. You have to wonder if Jason Aaron's a little bit of a kook there. That's easily worse, and Aaron's take on magic is bound to be ruined by politics along with the darkness and twistedness he speaks of. He continued. Let's see if anybody has come in yet. No. So let's see now. All right. All right. So continuing on here with the article. So, and then obviously as he continued. So this is, I guess, Jason responding. I think I read a quote from you where, okay, no, this is the interviewer. I think I read a quote from you where you said you drew some inspiration from the Superman stories of the 50s, where Superman encounters some circumstances that totally changes his life and has to navigate that back to a status quo. I picked up on that right away because everything about Action Comics number 1061 has that very elemental essence of Superman, the same way those Silver Age stories do. What were your big touchstones and how you found your voice for Superman and your vision for Metropolis? And then Jason, I guess, is responding, well, thanks. Yeah. I mean, I think that's definitely, I don't know if I went into it consciously knowing, quote, this is what I'm going for, unquote. But I think what you're saying fits um, exactly with how I see those Superman stories after 40 years or so of reading them. I mean, I learned to read from the first issue of World's Finest. I picked up, I kind of learned to read from that book and those other comics that I was picking up at the time. So I think some of that has just imprinted touchstones in me along the way. So, and a lot of kids probably grew up reading, learning to read through comics. I mean, I remember that was one of the big things in a TV movie called A Town Torn Apart, starring Michael Tucker and Jill Eikenberry. In fact, where the two of them, um, they emphasize that too. Let's see. Like I said, those Alan Moore issues right before Crisis and Crisis itself was a big book for me. And then John Byrne stuff that came after that. And there's some of Byrne's stuff that I look back at now and I don't necessarily agree with all the choices he made back then. Of course not. But I was really swept away by those books at the time. And of course, All Star Superman and some of the choices Grant Morrison made in that book, where they kind of took that Bizarro code to these really profoundly strange links. I'm trying to do the same thing, but with a darker twist on it. Of course he is, because that's what everybody wants. Everybody wants a darker Superman, right? Or Superman with a darker thought process, right? That's what that's what everybody's craving for, right? Ah. And then, of course, Mark Waid's Superman series, like Superman stories like Kingdom Come with Alex Ross, and Superman Birthright with Leinil Yu. Mark's a guy I feel like who has been able to distill Superman's voice and those Superman stories down to like the diamond core of him in so many different ways. And so Mark was actually the first person I called, when I started trying to figure out, like, what do I want to do? I had the germ of an idea, and I called him to kind of get the Mark Waid approval on it. Yeah, because Mark Waid is more important than, let's say, Jerry Siegel or George. Now, Grant, I know Siegel and Schuster have long passed away by this point, but still, you know. So when Mark gave me a thumbs up, I felt like, okay, I'm good to go. And going back to Avi's take on all this. Hmm. When darkness is emphasized all in a franchise it wasn't built upon, something's wrong. Um, in Kingdom Come, and this is Avi talking now, in Kingdom Come, which emphasized Lois Lane's death and Superman's misery, is another example I wouldn't want to emulate if I were a writer. Yet no wonder Wade would give his stamp of approval to somebody like Aaron based on how woke Wade's become himself. And the interviewer here, I guess, starting with this next question. So you mentioned Crisis on Infinite Earths and also the All-Star Superman version of Bizarro, which is interesting because the plot of this story and Bizarro's involvement in it kind of hinge on the multiverse and DC's changing multiverse in a very tangible way. How do you approach a character like Superman who has all these very distinctly separate mainstream incarnations that all count and all feed into the somewhat fluid modern day version of the character versus someone like Thor, who exists in a multiverse, but who is also part of what Marvel likes to call a single unbroken narrative, where there's just one mainstream version of Thor Odinson in a single continuity. This is Jason's response to that question. Sure, I mean certainly the two are different in that way, but also in other ways, not so much. You can look at Marvel and say it's an unbroken narrative, but it's not like you can take all those stories, make them all fit neatly together. You have to kind of pick and choose. This is the stuff that's important, and this other stuff we can kind of fudge and change. Jason continuing his answer here. I mean, I changed a lot of things during my time on Thor, which I guess is why a lot of people got upset with it and stopped reading it, right? Because he changed the context of the character, basically. Um, anyways, continuing on here. Let's see. Characters are built on retconned. Retcon, it's like a dirty word, but so much of what we know and love, especially about Thor, are things that changed from the get go. Things that were changed from the mythological character by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and Larry Lieber. So I think change is a fundamental part of these characters. They have to change and grow and evolve over time. Well, I would not totally agree, but just to stay relevant. That doesn't mean you throw out everything before. Again, you pick and choose the best parts that feel important and fundamental to what the character should be. This is why people still care about them so many years, so many decades after they were created, right? Like you get to use all the best bits of history to again tell a story um, that's different from all the other stuff. Now, just standing on the shoulders of great creators of the past and picking the bones of their stories, but how are you going to tell a story we haven't seen before? So I think that's absolutely what I'm trying to do here. Okay. All right. I'm still cognizant. I'm still also cognizant of the fact that I've been in comics, for almost 20 years. But in terms of DC, I'm still like the new kid on the block, right? I'm enjoying being the guy just kind of showing up and doing the Batman story. That's a bit different going into space. And now doing the Superman story that hopefully shows my love and appreciation for the character while also putting him through some awful stuff that we haven't seen him face before. I think you can see in my Superman story there's a little bit of that new guy mentality where right away I think on page one there's a reference to Gem World uh, and to War World, and there are great references to the Hunger Dogs and Apocalypse. There's stuff like that sprinkled throughout the story to show that, yeah, I'm the new guy around here. I maybe just showed up here as a creator, but my love and my understanding and my appreciation for DC goes back to before I could bleep and read, laughs. And of course, he just had to throw in that swear word in, didn't he? He just had to throw that in there. It's like he can't get his point across. Apparently, he can't like many people these days can't seem to get his point across without putting in a swear word. It's been a long time, and hopefully, the joy I feel in getting to work on these characters, especially writing Superman for the first time. All right, so let's see what Avi has to say about Jason's responses here to the questions. So this is Avi speaking now. His defense of changing is equally pathetic, considering how woke many of the changes over past decade and more have been. Predictably, Newsarama won't raise any queries about the woke side of his work, and that's how he changed the characters for the worse. No matter what he says, I vaguely recall him claiming his Thor run emphasized worth, but the finished product was worthless, which is exactly why many people no longer care. If anything, about stories, men like Aaron are brewing up because, politically speaking, they're just simply appalling and uninspiring, right down to the story where Jane Foster became a temporary replacement for the male god of thunder. Something they don't seem to get into either. If Aaron's picked and chosen, he's done it according to his woke politics. And quote unquote staying relevant is just leftist figures of speech, since there's only so many subjects the mainstream refuses to focus on today, and so many others they're just plain poor. And going back to the interview here, I guess here's the interviewer speaking. Uh, Here's the interviewer speaking here. Along with his 3-issue run of Superman, you've got with this 3-issue run of Superman, you've got Batman Off-World going on right now. Are you going to be sticking around at DC? Can you tease us on what you're working on next? And then I guess this is Jason's response. I can't give any specific teases because I could get in trouble. But yeah, I'm NDAs and all that's what they were talking about. I mean, I'm not going anywhere. I kind of just showed up, just started working on stuff for DC last year. I'm super excited. that the first projects I'm doing here are a Batman book and a run on Action Comics. That's pretty great. It's a pretty great way to start off your relationship. And that relationship is continuing. There's other stuff I've been working on and I'm about to start working on. I'm about to start writing something later this month. So yeah, that's the point of my career. I'm at right now. I'm happy to be able to spread my wings and work wherever I choose to work on whatever characters speak to me, in the moment. Mm-hmm. Like I've said many times, my life as a comic book reader began with DC. Those are the books that first sparked my love comics and made me really want to read comics for the rest of my life. Writing Batman and Superman right out of the gate is not a bad way to start, but I'm not even scratching the surface of what um, I have to I have to say about those two characters, let alone the entire rest of the DC universe. And then I guess there's Avi's little closing remark here. Let's see what time? 37 minutes. So that's good. So we go. Well, I hesitate to. No, this is Avi speaking here. Well, I hesitate to think of what he has in store for Batman. No matter how short the length of his story may be, no doubt there's plenty of other characters who's bound to fall under his influence will fare no better than the Man of Steel and the Masked Manhunter. Aaron sure sounds full of himself, but the reason he gets to choose is because he's a leftist. And somebody with the exact ideological perspective of the big two favor, along with several smaller publishers. So to see DC follow in Marvel's footsteps and give Aaron jobs this big is no surprise and nothing to finance either. I guess what Avi is saying is probably something you don't want to spend your money, buying his work. Basically, I think is what he's basically saying there. So there we go with that article. So that's all that we've got on the article side of things. Of course, now what we're going to do, we're going to go on to, we're going to move on to the wrestling wrap up here. As we do, we have news coming out from WWE, AEW, and TNA, which of course it became TNA again from being Impact with Hard to Kill and Snake Eyes over the weekend, among other things. So first off, we'll go over some WWE news, as I believe Royal Rumble is coming up. It's just around the corner here soon. Let me see now. Let's see now. Just give me a second. Now, one of the other things that did happen over the weekend is WWE Hall of Famer and legend Alpha the Wild Samoan actually did sustain a heart attack over the weekend. The Royal Rumble is on the 27th, which is 1 week from this Saturday. So, and we'll talk about what's on tap for tonight's Raw in a moment here. But first off, let me go to one of the big stories that came out over the weekend from the WWE. Ava the Wild Samoan was hospitalized over the weekend with pneumonia, and while he was being treated for the pneumonia, he suffered a couple minor heart attacks. Now he was released from the hospital this morning. Is said to be doing better and is recovering at home. Many well wishers for a speedy recovery there. As we're just under 2 weeks away from Royal Rumble, tonight's Raw will feature. There was a possible rumor that maybe Damian Priest might finally cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase, but scheduled for the show tonight. Tag team Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, the DIY, will be taking on the Judgment Day duo of JD McDonough and Dominic Mysterio. Then a non-title tag team match, Finn Balor and Damian Priest, who are the current WWE World Tag Team Champions, will be taking on the team of Awesome Truth of R-Truth and The Miz. And then the main event tonight, we'll see Seth Rollins taking on Jinder Mahal for the WWE World Heavyweight title. Jinder Mahal being a former world champion, is being given this opportunity due to some of the controversy about getting criticized by Tony Khan, and just that how Mahal has been kind of the guy who's kind of just came to work and did his job. So but that's all I got for you on the WWE side of things. AEW, of course, over the weekend had its collision and Battle of the Belts events over the weekend. So we'll take a look at those here in a moment. So first off, on Collision this past Saturday, let's see, Collision saw in another one of his open challenges to quote unquote earn a shot at Christian for the TNT title. Adam Copeland defeated Lee Moriarty, and utilizing a submission variation of the crossface he calls the Grindhouse, kind of a hammerlock version of the crippler crossface. Then the Mogul Embassy of Brian Cage and the Gates of Agony of Bishop Khan and Toa Leona retained the Ring of Honor World Six-Man Tag titles over Lance Archer and the Righteous, who had, of course, Jake Roberts in their corner. Prince Nana was in the corner of Mogul Embassy. Dustin Rhodes defeated Willie Mack in a just under 5 minute, pretty good match there. Adam Page defeated JD Drake. In her in-ring debut, Deonna Purrazzo defeated Red Velvet in her attempt to make her mark on AEW and get Toni Storm's attention. As Deonna Purrazzo, since being signed to AEW, has made no bones about the fact that she's coming for the AEW World Women's title. And then Hook defeated Ken Matthews in a minute 10. And then the main event saw all three members of the House of Black of Malachi Black, Brody King, and Buddy Matthews defeating Daniel Garcia and FTR of Dash Harwood and Cash Wheeler. So some great stuff for Collision there. Some great matches there. And then at Battle of the Belt, now the one criticism I have of Battle of the Belts is last couple of times they just have not had any title changes. And it's like, what's the whole point of having the event if you're not going to have a title change? Battle of Belts, an event like Battle of Belts has to have at least one title change. It can't just simply be just a showcase of the champion's wrestling ability. But with that, with what happened at Battle of Belts, of course, this past Saturday, and all this came from Chantney Arena in Norfolk, Virginia. So both both events came, both Battle of the Belt and Collision came from Cheney Arena. So in a street fight, AEW World Tag Team Champions Big Bill and Ricky Stark retained over the sex gods of Sammy Guevara and Chris Jericho with the help of Don Callis' family. Kind of cheapened the match a bit. Julia Hart retained the TBS title over Anna Jay in what I felt was a better match than people were giving it credit for. And probably what ended up being the best match of the night. Orange Cassidy defeated Preston Vance to retain the AEW International title. Now, as I said, matches were good. Matches are okay. They were good. I just didn't like the booking, just simply because of the fact if you're going to have an event like Battle of the Bells, you should have at least one title change to make it interesting. If you let it go, that let people think, people are not going to stop watching if you're saying Battle of the Belts and then no title is going to change. Everybody's going to think, well, we know the champions aren't going to, there's no drama there. There's no suspense, So, and of course, we'll talk probably about the good, bad, and ugly of Raw tomorrow on tomorrow's show in the wrestling wrap up. We'll talk a little bit about previewing. But the big news wrestling wise that came out over the weekend, of course, is the return of the TNA brand. Now, of course, it originally started out as an NWA affiliate, Total Nonstop Action, back in 2002. Went through some changes over the years and was Impact up until the end of last year. But now, starting with Hard to Kill on Saturday, starting with Hard to Kill on Saturday, they Hard to Kill on Saturday, they returned to being known as TNA, or Total Nonstop Action. So, on the Countdown show from Saturday, that's a card. If we want the results, actually. Oops. Anyways, the results, of course, saw Steve Maclin defeat Rich Swann. The team representing the faction known as the System of Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers, defeating Frankie Kazarian and Eric Young. And in the main event on the Countdown show, saw a crowning of a new TNA digital media title champion in a no DQ match in which Crazy Steve defeated Tommy Dreamer to become the new digital media champion. So that was from the Countdown show leading up into the pay-per-view, and now for the pay-per-view. So what happened, which was shown on Thriller TV. Let's see. Giselle Shaw outlasted 5 other knockouts in a Knockouts Ultimate X match to become the number 1 contender to the TNA Knockouts champion. She outlasted Alicia Edwards, Danny Luna, Jody Threat, Tasha Steelz, and Shia Brookside. PCO defeated Dirty Dango via DQ, but then Santino Marella decided to come out and turn it into from a singles match to a 6-man tag in which PCO was teamed with Jake Something and Rhino, defeat the trio of Alpha Bravo, Dirty Dango, and Oleg Prudius. Some of you may remember Oleg Prudius as Alex Kozlov in the WWE a few years ago. And then you had in a surprise move, in a surprise TNA Knockouts World Tag Team title match. MK Ultra of Killer Kelly and Masha Slamovich defended against the returning Decay of Havoc and Rosemary, in which Havoc and Rosemary defeated MK Ultra to become the new TNA Knockouts World title holders. In a three-way match for the TNA X Division title, Chris Sabin retained over Mexico's El Hijo del Vikingo and Japan's Kushida. In a very hard-fought match between these two greats, Josh Alexander outlasted Alex Hammerstone. And then in a four-way for the TNA World Tag Team titles, ABC outlasted Grizzled Young Veterans, Laredo Kid and Mike Bailey and the Rascals to become the new, or to retain TNA World Tag Team Championship. Jordan Grace defeated Trinity to become the new TNA Knockouts World Champion. So, and Moose became the new TNA World Champion by defeating Alex Shelley and christening in the era of the system, as it were, of him, Brian Myers, and Eddie Edwards. Also, after the match, of course, Nick Nemeth, formerly known as Dolph Ziggler in the WWE, made his TNA debut, essentially confronting Moose after the match. You also saw, of course, the TNA debuts of Ash by Elegance, formerly known as Dana Brooke in the WWE, and AJ Francis, formerly known as I think B-Fab, I think was his name in the WWE. Now AJ Francis was confronted by Joe Hendry in a pretty funny segment, which looks like it may set up a feud here between the two. So that's all from Hard to Kill, and then the following night from the Palm, as Hard to Kill was held at the Palms Casino Resort in Las Vegas, Nevada. The next night from the Palms Casino Resort in Nevada was their Snake Eyes event. Snake Eyes event saw Rhino defeat Shera in the opening match, Joe Hendry defeat Rich Swann, Jake Something outlast 5 other competitors in a 6-way match that included El Hijo del Vikingo, Kushida, Laredo Kid, Mike Bailey, and Trey Miguel. Shia Brookside, in her first singles match with TNA, defeated Tasha Steelz. The Grizzled Young Veterans defeated Frankie Kazarian and Eric Young. PCO defeated Jai Vidal. Chris Bay defeated Kevin Knight. Dirty Dango and Oleg Prudius defeated Damian Drake and Dante King. In what was probably believed to be her contractual rematch, Trinity came up short in regaining the TNA Knockouts World title from Jordan Grace. Jordan Grace successfully defended the title. Now, it's been rumored, part of the reason why the Knockout title may have been taken off of Trinity, it's been rumored that her contract is coming up with TNA, and she may be coming back to the WWE. Now that's only a rumor, so take it as such. And of course, speaking of contracts, Jack Perry made an appearance at the New Japan show over the weekend, New Japan Pro Wrestling show, Battle in the Valley, I believe, which he hopped the guardrail to attack Shota Umino, only to have a segment where he basically made it look like he was tearing up his AEW contract. So that's something to keep in mind. Let's see. Nick Nemeth, in his first singles match in TNA, defeated Zachary Wentz. MK Ultra, coming off of their defeat at the hands of Decay, of Havoc and Rosemary, defeated Danny Luna and Jody Threat. Josh Alexander defeated Will Ospreay in another classic between the two, and which brought out Scott D'Amore afterwards to give a speech telling everybody that TNA is back. And then the main event of the evening of the Snake Eyes event, Kazuchika Okada and the Motor City Machine Guns of Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley defeated the System of Moose, Brian Myers, and Eddie Edwards. So there you go. So things are changing in TNA, probably for the better. Looks like we got some very crisp rivalries going there, starting up there. So with that now, of course, now we are getting down to the end of the show here. We're coming up on the hour mark here. So what we're going to do, of course, is we're going to wrap things up by going through this day. So today being Monday, January the 15th, 2024, we're going to go ahead and take a look back at this day in Meech history. So, and again, if you haven't already, if you guys can like and share the stream, see where you can get some more people in here to engage. Also, if anything we've talked about grabs your attention, feel free to comment on or ask questions. I'll try to answer the question to the best of my ability. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get ready to take a look at what's gone on this day in the history. 2004. All right. So first off, we're going to go back 20 years ago today, as on this date 20 years ago today, back in 2004. As soon as I can bring that up here. On this date in 2004, JC Staff's Daphne in the Brilliant Blue premiered on Japanese television on this date 20 years ago today. So on this date 20 years ago today, Daphne in the Brilliant Blue premiered on Japanese television. Okay, so now moving ahead 10 years to 2014, on this date 10 years ago today in 2014, on this date 2014, the 20th issue of Harbinger from Valiant Comics went on sale on this date back in 2014. The story was part one of the Resistance storyline, written by Joshua Dysart, with art by Clayton Henry, lettering by David Sharp, and coloring by Brian Reber. So on this date, 10 years ago today, the 20th issue of Harbinger from Valiant Comics went on sale on this date 10 years ago today. Now, moving ahead to 2019, 5 years ago today, on this date 5 years ago today, on this date 5 years ago today, WWE held its Monday Night Raw event in the Legacy Arena at the Birmingham Jefferson Convention Complex in Birmingham, Alabama. On that show, main event saw The Miz, Shane McMahon in his corner, defeat Sheamus, Dario in his corner. Andrade defeated Rey Mysterio Jr. A scheduled match between Samoa Joe and Mustafa Ali never got started because Joe attacked Ali before the bell could even ring. Asuka defeated Billy Kay of the one half of the. I know they were a tag team trying to the Inspiration, I believe, via submission, and then Peyton Royce lost to Becky Lynch via submission as well. So that happened 5 years ago. Now, normally we say that we have the same date for two things. We usually say it's nice, but in this case, it might not be as nice as we hope. Normally, we'd say 2019 is just so nice that we're going to hit it twice. However, this may not be a case where it's not quite so nice. As on this date 5 years ago, actress Karen Channing passed away at the age of 97. Of course, longtime actress and voice actress and singer. She had quite a few animated roles, cartoon roles, including, of course, Grandmama in the Addams Family cartoons, Meltable in Shinbone Alley, Kanina LaFleur in Chippendale's Rescue Rangers. Let's see. She was Miss Fieldmouse in Thumbelina, Fanny in The Brave Little Toaster Goes to Mars, the witch in Two Stupid Dogs episode Red Strikes Back, Cornelia C. Contralto II in Magic School Bus episode The Haunted House, and herself Family Guy episode Patriot Games. So Carol Channing passing away at the age of 97 5 years ago today. So with that, I thank everybody for being here tonight. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. We'll be back here tomorrow night, of course, with more niche news and all that. Of course, it's Friday. Rick Piper will be joining me, and we'll be looking at books that went on sale, comic books that went on sale in January 1940 from Fiction House. We'll be reading, of course, from Jumbo Comics, Volume 1, Issue 13, Jungle, Fight, and Planet Comics, Volume 1, Issue 3. So we'll be reading, of course, the likes of Sheena, Queen of the Jungle, and Weird Stories of the Supernatural, among others. So with that, I thank everyone for being here. I hope everybody enjoyed the show, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye.